into what's called foreshortening. So we've worked with perspective before, but one of the most difficult things to work with in art is called foreshortening. What foreshortening is, if you watched or looked through the presentation that I posted, so an example would be if I have my hand here, you can see it's pretty much the same size as my head, but as something gets closer to you, right, and really exaggerated, my hand is going to seem larger, right? So how do we do that in art? If I have objects, okay, a great example is any kind of brush. But as I hold the brush, as I turn it towards you, this area gets smaller and the handle gets larger. And then opposite, if I turn it away, right, you can see how short the handle looks. The object itself isn't changing, but it basically comes down to our perspective, right? So as things get recede into the background, they're going to look smaller. As they are closer to the viewer's eye, they become larger. So especially in terms of drawing, these are all kind of fundamental things, but they're definitely one of the toughest. I've heard some art teachers call it to taming the beast. So today we're going to just start simple. And I want you guys to just think about simple objects, right? So using just a pencil sharpener, right? So what does it look from this angle head on? What does it look like this angle? What happens as you turn it? So using 1 point and 2 point perspective to just kind of begin the steps of foreshortening. Because basically what the body is just a series of geometric shapes, right? Our arms are cylinders, our heads are spheres. So once we learn how to manipulate those, we can kind of get into more using the body, right? Sorry for the little smiley face. To create these ideas of foreshortening, really exaggerated gestures. Another example, I didn't feel like drawing the face, but having something come at you, right? So you can see that there is basically a vanishing point, and how everything gets smaller as it recedes and larger, right, as it comes towards the hand. So you're able to create these really dynamic effects. It's also good for just even more relative and smaller drawings as well, using perspective, right? If we look at a lovely Mona Lisa who's still over here. How to draw three-dimensional forms in perspective, which will lead us to be able to break the body down into shapes so we can create really dynamic kind of like pieces and illustrations that show foreshortening. So having things coming forward, having things receding into the background. But the basics. So what you're going to need for today is a pencil, an eraser, a ruler or a triangle, and just a couple simple household objects that you can practice drawing with. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to start by creating a horizon line. And for right now, I'm just going to create my horizon line in the center of my paper so I can see what things will look like from multiple angles. So I'm going to draw my horizon line. Okay, and for today, I'm just going to put that vanishing point right in the middle. So when you're drawing your different objects, you're going to draw them from a couple different perspectives, and you don't want to just have it on your paper. You really want to kind of put it far away from you so that you have a different kind of vantage. I'm going to take my pen and I'm just going to put it probably like 2 feet away from me so I get a little bit of a better idea of perspective. So from my vanishing point, right, this is where my eye level is. So if it's to the right of you, it's going to be on the right. If it's below you, you're going to draw below. So it kind of starts with this small sphere, and I will zoom in a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to take that part and using my ruler, bring that up to my vanishing point. And now drawing cylindrical or cylinder objects in perspective, it's not going to have a straight horizontal or vertical line. So I can see kind of where the cap meets, and I'm going to create another small cylinder. So you can see that as it recedes, it's foreshortening, it gets smaller, and as it comes to the front, it gets larger. Okay. For my cap, move this a little bit. Okay, my cap is slightly larger, so around here and a little bit up, I am going to draw a slightly larger circle, and then bring that back to my vanishing point from the corners of there. And then I'm going to decide where to end the cap of my pen. So on my micron, I also have kind of this little, if you guys look, kind of this little metal cap. So it's right on the same kind of line, so I'm going to add that there. And then off of there, right, so I'm going to follow my perspective line. So to make this three-dimensional, I can see that there is this tiny little rectangle on the bottom. So from the corners of that rectangle, and then using vertical and horizontal lines, I'm able to create this like illusion that we have a 3D kind of piece. So I'd come in with my eraser, take away, if you guys remember, those are called orthogonal lines. Kind of define my edges a little bit more. Now, when it comes to value, right, if my light source is coming from this direction, remember with like cylinders, you're going to start from the bottom and gradually increase or decrease your pressure to get a lighter value. If it's coming this way, a cube. So speaking of cubes, an eraser, right? So if we are looking at it straight on, right on my vanishing point, we're looking straight down. It's just a square. So, but as it begins to move up the horizon line, right, we're going to see it from different angles, and it could be from the side, it could be from over here. So if I was drawing my eraser, I'm going to put it over to the side. You want to draw, right, so these are your, I'm going to start with my vanishing points. Typically, you would draw your square first, but if I wanted to draw something that was a little bit more angled, and one good way to match your angle is if you have this here, you can just slide it right up. Okay. Find this angle, slide it. Slide it over. Okay. So I created one side of my eraser. So then all of those corners are going to come down to here. And then I could figure out matching up with those. And you can work a little bit more loosely now, like rounding out your edges or creating some of the different texture. I see there's like definitely a crack in my eraser. There's like little pieces missing. It's definitely not the cleanest. But once you have the basic form, then you're able to kind of alter it a little bit. But it will give you the perspective that you need to create a more three-dimensional piece. So when you're drawing objects with flatter values, you want to make sure, no matter what you're drawing, that there are three definite values And that one side is the darkest, which is really going to help give contrast. So I could come in and add value to create some of these missing pieces. Or I could come in with my eraser to maybe make a little bit of highlight in some area. So there is my eraser.